Hey guys, Nishquick here. As many of you gamers know, the life of a gamer is basically just building up a massive backlog of games. So as the year comes to an end, and after playing a lot of amazing games this year, and cleaning out this massive backlog of mine, I want to share some of my favorites from this year. I've broadened my horizons, and also played a lot of games recommended to me by some friends, which I've always wanted to play. So in this video, I'm going to focus on games that I played this year that were not new releases in 2022. My 2022 games video will be released later this year once I beat more games, and that'll definitely be a fun one. It'll be like a game of the year kind of video. But before we get started, I just want to say, my name's Nishquick, and if you love video game analysis, reviews, and casual discussions, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss an upload, and stay up to date on my latest content. And give this video a like if you enjoy it, it really helps out the channel. Also, sound off in the comments below, what games did you check off your backlog this year? I want to hear your picks in the comments, so let's talk. And without further ado, let's jump into some of my favorite games I played this year, which I got to knock off my backlog. Alright, let's get started with Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5, or SMT5, released last November, and I purchased it back then, but never got the chance to play a good bit of it until recently this summer. Though I'm not very far, I do have to say, this press turn system is one of the best and most in-depth turn-based combat systems I've ever experienced in an RPG game. People aren't wrong when they call this series the Dark Souls of JRPGs. With proper demon fusion, miracles, essences, and strategic choices in combat, you can annihilate demons left and right, but likewise, your foes can easily eat you for breakfast. The world design and music also come together to create a really badass and foreboding vibe. If you guys like the Persona series, or turn-based RPGs in general, do not sleep on this amazing game. So, out of the major hit 2017 games, I did not get to play Horizon Zero Dawn, and another game I'll talk about later. And honestly, I gotta say I'm not the biggest fan of the series, and the gameplay loop isn't too interesting to me, but what I did play, I did really enjoy. The combat is actually pretty interesting, with elemental weaknesses and a wide variety of weapon choices to customize and play around with. The game is very visually impressive and high budget with its graphics and technology. But that's also to its detriment, I've noticed. The environments look so good, but I personally am not a fan of how the open world wasn't really too inviting and didn't really spark my curiosity compared to games like Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and even the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Some areas felt a little samey at times, and I felt like I was just kind of running aimlessly and not truly exploring. The story was good, but honestly nothing compared to some other game narratives that I played this year and even before. Though I will say, I did sympathize with Aloy as a protagonist near the end of the game more than I thought that I would. So here, I'm gonna be talking about two games, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. Don't get me wrong, these two games are very different, and if you've played them, you know exactly how different. But I just want to combine this entry for the sake of time. So you guys know me, I'm a fan of fantasy games like Zelda, Xenoblade, Kingdom Hearts, Persona, Fire Emblem, etc. I usually don't play realistic games and games with stories about war, espionage, government conspiracies, etc. But with the push from some friends of mine, I gave these games a shot after hearing only high praise for Hideo Kojima's work, and I was truly blown away. The gameplay is so unique. Different encounters and situations require you to sneak around in particular ways, but while also encouraging out-of-the-box and creative ways to get past hurdles and obstacles, making you truly feel like the badass spy and soldier that Solid Snake is. And with your massive arsenal of weapons, you feel like you can handle any situation of any size or scale. The story is full of twists and turns, phenomenally written characters, and some really over-the-top action set pieces that make me stop and say, these games really came out in the 90s and early 2000s? And you know what else makes me say that? Some of the really mind-blowing story moments about government conspiracies that honestly kind of remind me of today's world events and politics. How much could Kojima see into the future? If you're a fan of stealth and action video games, and even action movies, check these games out. They're so cool. I am very excited to play Metal Gear Solid 3 very soon. So as a kid, I always wanted to play the God of War games on my PS3. God of War always intrigued me as someone who knew a decent bit about Greek mythology from the Percy Jackson series, and doing some of my own research and learning some in school as well. Also, the action set pieces looked out of this world. I finally got to give a portion of the original trilogy a shot this year. A friend of mine let me borrow his copy of God of War 3 Remastered on PS4, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it would be a mindless hack and slash game, but the combat is honestly really cool. You have 4 different melee weapons, and each of them is used for different scenarios and situations against certain enemy types. Also, the puzzles are amazing! What's funny is, this might be honestly my biggest takeaway from the game. These environmental puzzles remind me of Zelda dungeons. I have yet to actually play a game with innovative and ingenious puzzles similar to the way 3D Zelda games do. And God of War 3 comes the closest to getting that awesome, rewarding feeling. You get to play around with these puzzles in portions of the game like in Daedalus' Labyrinth, Hera's Garden, and so many other cool and interesting places. I guess one complaint, if you can call it that, is that since I didn't really play the first 2 God of War games in the trilogy, this story felt a little one-note to me, but not in a bad way. It just wasn't something that impacted me as much since the build-up wasn't there. A lot of my friends told me that the ending of God of War 2 leading up to 3 made everything that happens in 3 so much more enjoyable. Maybe I should go back and play the other 2 games. Another thing is, when I played this game, I was kind of annoyed by Kratos' one-note character and constant rage. Having played God of War 2018 last year, I personally missed the Kratos that I was more familiar with, who had his quiet and sympathetic moments. But then I realized, he's not that kind of guy yet. But as I play God of War Ragnarok now, I appreciate Kratos a lot more in God of War 3. If he wasn't the vengeful and hateful man he was in those games, he would not be the sympathetic and understanding father he is today. So back in high school, I used to love the Uncharted games. It was my first time playing an action game with such a realistic feeling, making it feel like an action movie. The climbing, gunplay, witty banter, and awesome set pieces all made it so much fun to play, and I finally got to play Uncharted 4 last year and I truly loved it. I was very curious though to play Uncharted Lost Legacy, a spin-off game starring Chloe and Nadine, 2 supporting characters from Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4 respectively. It was a short one, but honestly guys, this game might have my favorite climbing sequences in the entire series. Some of the structures you climb are so massive and grand, and there's just something truly satisfying about climbing massive structures and acting like it's humanly possible. Also, this was particularly cool for me personally. This game takes place in India. I'm Indian myself, so it was cool seeing a AAA game like this set in my home country. Though I do gotta say the enemy grunts sound so silly with their dialogue and overly heavy accents, and this is probably my least favorite Uncharted villain in the series, honestly. The awesome dynamic between Chloe and Nadine makes up for that though. Seeing their relationship evolve is truly awesome. Just like its title, this game is massive. Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition is set in a fantastical and mystical fantasy realm full of dragons, goblins, myths, and monsters, but everything is so cartoony and silly, yet unique. The enemy and character design is so detailed, zany, and creative, and it's overall just outrageous in the best way possible. Even though the turn-based combat system can be a little slow compared to other turn-based games I've played, I found myself getting into the combat just to see how these overworld enemies act and move around in the combat field. It's so cool. The combat is simple, but a lot of moves you receive are genuinely fun to use and play around with in certain scenarios. Also, the fun-sized Forge minigame is a really ingenious way to level up your gear. This is a great game for those of you who are new to the JRPG genre, and was personally a treat to me whenever I played it this year. So, I usually hate games like Plague Tale. I'm not a fan of games that put the story first and are at times interactive movies. Those games, no matter how good the story is, just bore the heck out of me personally. Plague Tale Innocence, though, was the exact opposite of how I thought it would turn out. A friend of mine really pushed me to play this on PS5 since I'd claimed it on PlayStation Plus, and I am really glad I did. Plague Tale Innocence not only tells a great story about two caring and supportive siblings, but also the friends they make along the way and how they adapt and react to France crumbling around them with the spread of the plague and the onslaught of rats swarming every corner of the nation. Some of the areas you explore and some of the scenarios the characters are put in during certain chapters really immerse you so deeply in the world and dire situations these characters are going through. The level and world design along with the story really does a great job with immersing you into the world that is built. The game is no slouch with the gameplay either. There aren't too many stealth-based games in this modern age, so Plague Tale really stands out in that way. The main character Amicia has a wide arsenal of items that help her and her brother Hugo traverse through this crumbling land. It's so much fun to use fire to disperse rats, and something else to attract rats to another area of the room, and just slinging rocks at a guard to knock them out in such a savage way. Plague Tale Innocence really impressed me. I'm very excited to play the sequel Plague Tale Requiem on PC Game Pass. So I've heard so many people say that Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is an amazing action RPG and one of the best in the modern age of JRPGs. And honestly, I just couldn't really get into it. It's not a bad game by any means, I just didn't really click with it that much. I did enjoy the premise of being stranded on an island and having to work together with others to survive and build a new society. That part is cool, but the exploration was a little weird to me and there were some limitations that I noticed as well. Sometimes I just wanted to jump over a ledge to get to a lower part of the map, but the map is filled with so many invisible walls, so I couldn't really explore the way I wanted to. Also, I'm enjoying the combat, but it's not as fluid and interesting as I thought it would be. I just felt like I was button mashing a lot of the times. But I've only played a handful of hours of it, so I'll continue Ys 8 and give it another shot sometime in the near future, and I'll give you guys an update on what I think about it. I borrowed Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart from a friend, and it was short but a decently good time. I don't have too much to say other than the fact that it looked really good running on my PS5 on my 4K TV, and the DualSense functionality was really cool. The game looks like it could be a Pixar movie, and it runs so smoothly with 60 FPS and 4K, and every single weapon has a new kind of haptic feedback feeling to it, which really immerses you in the combat. I did wish at times that the world was a little bigger and the game was a little longer, so I'm hoping Insomniac makes a sequel to this on PS5, which is a little bigger in scope. But when it comes to the cartoony action platformer games, I think I personally prefer Super Mario Odyssey and Psychonauts 2. So, I love games with vast mystery, expansive environmental storytelling, and beautiful music. Nier Automata is basically this, and something I've been longing to experience ever since I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 years back. I don't want to say too much here because I want to play more of it and make a dedicated video on the game, but what I've played is a fluid, beautiful, yet quiet and introspective game. I compare it to Xenoblade since the environments are semi-open world, yet sort of linear as well, but pique your curiosity with points of interest and engaging side quests. The game also has a fantastic soundtrack, but compared to Xenoblade it's a lot quieter, that lends to more of the post-apocalyptic and darker atmosphere it's going for. Every song that plays truly enhances the moment, vibe, and atmosphere. The combat is simple, yet very satisfying and fluid. It's a truly fantastic experience I missed out upon its release in 2017. So here are just a few games I played in 2022 from my massive backlog, which is still growing, by the way. I skipped a few games either because I want to make dedicated videos on them, I already made reviews or videos on them, or there are new 2022 releases which I will go into detail on in an upcoming video. Also, shout out to all my friends who got me into some of these games. I really enjoyed them. A lot of the entries on this list come from recommendations from my friends, so thank you guys. So, what games did you guys check off your backlog this year, and which ones are your favorites from what you've played? Additionally, which games that I talked about today have piqued your interest? Have you played any of them? Sound off in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all things gaming, reviews, analysis, usability studies, and casual discussions. This is Nishquick signing off. Have a great day.